Ervin Birnbaum.
Perfect. Okay. So,
Age, sex, date of birth.
video.
I survived the war, and when the war was over, we were liberated actually by the Red Army. The Russians liberated Budapest on January 18th, 1945. Now came my decision of what to do. I couldn't believe in God. I was now, how old? 15. With all my yeshiva training and the Jewish home and the Hasidic background there, whatever, I could not accept the fact that there can be a God who would tolerate the death of innocence that we experienced. At an early stage, already in 1945, I went to a Hachshara of Hashomer HaTzair, determined that I'm going to Israel. And then I returned to Budapest, and I told my parents, I'm going to Israel. And my parents said, nothing doing, we are not going to Israel. How many families survived where you have father, mother, and all the children? You can't do that now. You know, we are together, we go together wherever we go. And I decided I am leaving for Israel. And I left. A certain day, they told me that a group, my group, that I was actually already leading is leaving. And I came to my parents and I told them I'm leaving another, whatever it was, a day or two. And my parents wouldn't let me go until my mother saw that I'm really genuine and serious. I was on hunger strike. I didn't eat several days until apparently she discussed it with her husband, with my father. She came and she said, come, I will accompany you to the train. Go already, just eat. My father never said a word. He didn't agree. But I joined the group, and then we continued. If I will tell you that the trip until we got to the boat took about 15 months. And then when we got, eventually, my group was on the boat, the Exodus, okay? So we were on the Exodus. It wasn't planned that way. I didn't know, no one in my group knew that it's going to be the Exodus, but it was the fate worked it that way, as I would have said. Now I would say God, but okay. But the fact is this, that during all that time, I was a Verbrennter, I was an enthusiastic Hashomer HaTzairnik, a left-wing, a non-believer in God. And eventually we were on the Exodus. The ship was brought back to Europe. Now we are already in November 1947. The passengers on the boat wasn't the ship Exodus that was abandoned, but the British put us over onto 3 British cargo boats, and they tried to unload us in France, where we started out from, but very few. No, people wouldn't leave on their own. Very few left on their own, and then they took us across Gibraltar to Hamburg, and there they forced us on 2 boats. They had to take 2 soldiers for every person, hands and feet, to take them off the boat, because the claim was of the passengers that we want to go to Eretz Israel, to Palestine. So we wouldn't get off anywhere else. And I became a rabbi who was really an atheist. The truth is, I must tell you that I felt very strange about it. I wouldn't have gone into the rabbinate if not for practical reasons. I was rabbi already after my first 3 years in Danville. I was in a congregation in New York, in Queens, an area called Rosedale, when when NASA sent up a satellite to Mars. It was called the Mariner. Does the name sound familiar to you? And the Mariner reached Mars, and then the contact with the Mariner ceased. It didn't function. The Mariner couldn't relate to the Earth for what it was sent there, pictures of the Mars surface. And then that morning I was supposed to be at the doctor, Doc Rosenthal, wonderful. And I had to go to him for some reason. And that morning, before I leave the house, I find out that signals are now reestablished. With commands from the Earth, they succeeded in making the apparatus there workable, and it is beginning to transmit signals. And what hit me, I remember that was a great revelation to me. The same law that operates on the Earth must operate there in space, in the distant planet, now Mars, millions of miles away, which means a law that is sent out, a signal sent out from Earth, will catch on there and will cause it to transmit information here. So there is one law which embraces the universe. And I get to the doctor and I get into his office. I told him, Doc, today I really had a revelation. I learned I gave him the story of the Mariner, that there is one law that functions in the whole universe. And this shows me that there is one power which embraces this whole apparatus. So he looks at me and he's without the kippah, he looks very secular, and he says, Ervin, you need to turn to the Mariner and to Mars to find out that there is a providence that functions, that is there, that guides the universe. Look into yourself. Look how the heart and the lungs and the kidneys and the bowels, look how they are put together. Look what harmony there is. Look what perfection there is in this apparatus that is in you. You carry it with you wherever you go. Doesn't that show you more that there is some sort of a power that functions, that gives us the opportunity to continue and carry on, and that in a marvelous manner put this together the way it is? And I remember that came to me like a sledgehammer hitting me on the head. And here a secular person, a doctor, tells me, who is already in the rabbinate for several years, that the apparatus that we carry within us shows us that there is a God, that there is a providence, that there is some sort of order that is in the world.